This tracks 100 people who start a diet today. Over the next year, the nodes steadily drop off. By the time we look for long-term permanent weight maintenance, 95 of them go dark. A mere 5 nodes remain illuminated. The people who fail usually subject themselves to what trainers call digestive hell. They drop their intake to 700 calories a day, surviving on tiny, flavorless portions of buckwheat and cucumbers. They build a physiological prison that the human body cannot sustain. This inevitably leads to the all-inclusive rebound. They endure months of starvation, specifically so they can fly out to a resort in Antalya, hit the buffet, and immediately regain all 30 kilograms they lost. The diet was a temporary holding pattern, and they couldn't wait to end it. The individuals who survive the physiological shock usually possess a deeper motivation than fitting into a smaller pair of jeans. When a cardiologist warns of imminent heart failure, or a rheumatologist diagnoses a severe autoimmune disease, the patient develops a why that outlasts daily cravings. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl famously observed that those who have a strong why to live can bear almost any how. Frankl developed this insight while surviving the absolute extremes of human deprivation in a concentration camp. If a person can maintain psychological endurance in a literal fight for their life, the daily friction of a mild caloric deficit is a trivial inconvenience. Permanent weight loss is never achieved through temporary dietary restriction. The 5% who succeed make a psychological choice to shift their identity. They accept that certain habits are simply no longer part of their reality. But psychology is only half the equation. You also have to navigate the biological mechanics. People try to force the issue by wearing plastic sweatsuits to boost their metabolism. They generate intense thermal energy, but that heat simply dissipates. The body dehydrates, the heart races, and the person becomes exhausted so fast they burn fewer total calories on the treadmill. Instead of focusing on sweat, look at this split-screen bar chart tracking sleep. We have 2 groups, one sleeping 5 hours a night and another sleeping 8. The sleep-deprived group burns 500 fewer calories a day. The body senses the lack of recovery and slows its systems down, creating a massive penalty for missing out on rest. You can also leverage the sheer physical effort of digestion, known as the thermic effect of food. Notice how the protein segment on this chart reacts. When you eat 100 calories of protein, your body expends 30 of those calories purely on the biological labor required to break it down. Yet dieters consistently sabotage themselves by eliminating fats and carbohydrates. Cut carbs, and your serotonin drops, leaving you lethargic and depressed. Cut SATs, and your gallbladder stops releasing bile, bringing your gastrointestinal tract to a painful halt. When you strip away essential macronutrients and deprive yourself of sleep, your body assumes you are starving. It triggers an emergency preservation protocol, hoarding every ounce of energy it can. This desperation drives people toward commercial health foods. But watch what happens when we break open a highly marketed protein bar. Often, the protein content is minimal. Instead, the inside is packed with cheap industrial fats and starches that masquerade as fuel. The deception extends to the label. A product plastered with sugar-free typography might not contain sucrose, but manufacturers swap it out for other simple carbohydrates that spike your insulin and trigger an identical physiological cascade. You see the same pattern in hyper-cheap protein powders sold on unregulated online marketplaces. The price is drastically undercut because the actual protein has been replaced with useless fillers. People trust the bold typography on the packaging, believing they are making healthy choices. In reality, they are secretly pushing themselves into a caloric surplus while suffering the mental fatigue of dieting. Once you fix the input, the output becomes manageable. General weight loss requires a simple caloric deficit, but when you get down to the final, stubborn 15% of body fat, your biology holds on tight. Here, targeted cardiovascular exercise mobilizes specific fat-burning hormones to clear out that final reserve. Even with the right mechanics, mistakes happen. The greatest threat is a psychological trap known as the burning barn syndrome. A dieter eats one piece of chocolate, decides their entire effort is ruined, and spirals into weeks of binge eating. A dietary slip is a single point of data. It does not erase the months of physiological adaptation that preceded it. The solution is entirely mechanical. You wake up the next day and return to your baseline habits. Maintenance is a daily practice. Will Smith describes his approach to immense challenges as laying one single brick as perfectly as possible every single day. Surviving the long plateau of weight maintenance requires exactly that level of incremental, quiet discipline. And it requires humility. The ancient philosopher Socrates stated, "I know that I know nothing." Your metabolism, your stress levels, and your daily environment will continuously shift. The 5% who maintain their weight do not possess a genetic advantage or superhuman willpower. They treat their health as a flexible, lifelong evolution, making small, permanent adjustments to how they live, rather than punishing themselves for a phase.